Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us at the Business Renovator. I'm excited today to be able to bring someone who I've learned a ton about LinkedIn and how to sell with on social. But before I do that, what I'd like to do is, before I bring him on, is bring up my buddy Brian's book, Customer Delight. I'm going to take a John Wooden quote out of it today. And John Wooden's quote is, oh, no, that's the wrong one, boys and girls. Wrong bookmark. Here we go. Things turn out best for the people who make the best out of the way things turn out. That's a John Wooden quote. So things turn out best for the people who make the best out of the way things turn out. So we're going to make the best out of today because it's a wonderful opportunity to learn about LinkedIn and selling on social platforms. To help us understand what that's all about and where he came from is my new friend, Bill McCormick. Here he comes. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome.
Hey, Phil, good morning. And hi, everyone that's out there. Thanks for having me on the Business Renovator. Very excited to be here.
So we met because of social, and your partner in crime, Bryn Tillman, she was highly touted by a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Gittimer. And he said, if you want to know anything about LinkedIn, you need to hang out with these guys. You know what? He's absolutely right. The more I hang out with you guys, the more I realize there's so much opportunity with what you bring to the table. And you got started in this. Just let me read what you shared here. It says you discovered the power of LinkedIn and social selling when you and your wife started your advertising specialty company about 5 years ago. And with a handful of clients, you quickly became a student of social selling and discovering how to find leads and generate sales. And the thing I want to add to that that's not written in there, with value. That's what I've learned from you guys hanging out with your company. So let's just have a conversation and share with us how that all happened.
Well, yeah. My wife has been in the print and promotional products industry since 2000. And in 2013, a very unfortunate event happened. Her boss, it was just the two of them in the company, very successful company. Her boss died fairly suddenly. He had been diagnosed with cancer, but it happened quicker than anybody thought. He had wanted us to buy the company, but nothing was put in writing. So kids, the moral of that story is make sure you have a will, make sure you have all of your stuff written down, and that didn't happen. And so for 9 weeks, it was kind of a back and forth. And then finally, his family decided that they would keep the business. So we wanted to start our own company. So we went out and started our own company, and suddenly we needed a salesperson. I had sales experience, not very good sales experience. I had been either fired or demoted from every sales job I ever had. That's a whole nother story, probably a whole nother podcast. And there are people now thinking, why am I listening to this guy? But hang in there. So I had a full-time job at the time. I was a 911 dispatcher, actually a supervisor in a 911 center in New York, in upstate New York. But I worked mainly nights, and I always had 2 days off during the week. So on those 2 days off during the week, I would go out and sell. I quickly discovered that LinkedIn was the place. Actually, my wife and I both quickly discovered LinkedIn was the place where people could find us and we could find them. Because what happened was my wife was with this other company, and then suddenly she was gone. And she actually had some clients in Bermuda that were looking to contact her, and they found her on LinkedIn. So we're like, okay, this LinkedIn thing is good. And that's probably one of the first big points I'll make is LinkedIn is like the water cooler. You know, as people are moving from job to job, and I think it's somewhere that the stat is like 20% of the people that 20% of the people in your network in the coming year will change jobs. So how do you find them? How do you get in touch with them? Because their email address at that company they worked at doesn't work anymore. So LinkedIn is the place. And so in 2014, I went to a industry trade show, and this sales trainer you may have heard of, Alice Hyman, was there doing a talk about social. and she talked and started with LinkedIn. And the first question she asked is, if you have a LinkedIn profile, stand up. And there's about 150 of us in the room. Almost everyone stood up. And then she kind of went down the list. You know, if you have a background banner image, stay standing. If you have a professional headshot, stay standing. If your headline is more than just your name and company, stay standing. And she got all the way down to, if you're on LinkedIn every day and you've gotten business from it, stay standing. And I was the only one in the room that was standing. So Alice and I connected after that. And as I said, the rest is history. I ran into Bryn in those circles. And I was a big networker, part of a BNI. Anytime I would have a one-to-one meeting with anyone, I would talk about LinkedIn. You have to be on LinkedIn. This is what's working for me. So I had a number of people say to me, how do you do this? Can you teach a class? Can you? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So I began to look into starting a business. I had a buddy who was another networking partner who was a website designer. I said, listen, I'll build a website if you record videos, and we'll go into this together and we'll sell the videos. That was a great idea if the videos had sold, but the videos didn't sell. But what happened was I got a reputation for having these two companies. And in Bermuda, one of our largest clients, one day I was in there for promotional products, and they said, hey, so we're trying to do this LinkedIn thing. Can you help us? Our sales department needs training. Can you do that? And so like any good salesman, rather than saying, I don't have a clue, I'm like, sure, I can do that. And inside my head, I'm going, I have no idea how to do that. So I was part of a chat group on LinkedIn that Bryn had put me into. We had very little interaction, but in that chat group, I just said, hey, I've got a client that's a bank that's looking for training. I don't have any idea how I'm going to deliver it, and I have no idea what the price of that. Can someone help me? And Bryn was the first one to say, sure, here's my calendar. Let's jump on a call. And we jumped on a call. We talked about just me white labeling her training under my company name. But then about a week and a half later, we happened to be in New York City at LinkedIn's headquarters there, their East Coast headquarters in the Empire State Building, for the launch of LinkedIn events. And we got to talking, and I was actually just kidding, Phil. And I said to her, so Bryn, now that I'm going to be using some of Social Sales Link stuff, can I add Social Sales Link to the experience section of my LinkedIn profile? And she said, sure, you can join the team. And so that's how it started. It was October, November of 2018. And Bryn and I quickly discovered we aligned really well. Somewhere on my desk here, I have her book. That's how I did my profile. I did it with her book. And I tell people, if you hear me train, you've heard Bryn train, because everything I've learned, I learned from her. So I learned from the best.
Yeah, I get that. I've seen you guys in action. I've been able to be part of your weekly group coaching that you do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that leads me to a quote that Brian Tracy has. And he says, there's never enough time in a lifetime to learn everything from ground zero. So why bother trying that? Find the people who already know how to do it and leverage their knowledge, their experience, their resources. And that's why I'm excited that you guys are represented by yourself here, because I think, because it's some of the places I hang out with other coaches, I'm a coach mentor with a franchise, and I've been with them for be 14 years starting this year. And I've seen a high churn rate. When you talk about 20% of the people leave in the coaching space, it's one of the most wonderful opportunities to be in business and to serve people, but it's also one of the most challenging. You need to go out and be that hunter, that salesperson. And many of us don't like to do that. And what I really like about what you guys teach and are proponents of is how to leverage LinkedIn like it's your online networking community. Mm-hmm. And I want to just go back to something you didn't say, which is a good thing, because I learned this from you guys. Because, it really follows my own philosophy. When you were talking about your journey to get to where you are and sharing with us today, you never once mentioned you were in the swag business. You led with value. And that's one of the core values of your company, is to lead with value. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I think that's really an important aspect.
It is. And actually in my swag business, I have to say it quietly. My wife's in the other room. She doesn't like that, but swag is better than tchotchke. She really doesn't like tchotchke. even there, I learned how to sell with value, and that's always kind of been my philosophy.
Mhm.
I was in the pest control business as a salesman, and I did so badly they were going to fire me. But the district manager really liked me. The branch manager of the office I was in, he pulled me in the office. He said, "I'm supposed to fire you, but I really like you, and I think you bring value to the company. Would you mind being a technician?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll be a technician." And what I discovered was when I was in people's houses and they saw the value I brought with so I was a termite technician. I was only one out of two offices. And when they saw how diligent I was and the value I brought to them, when I proposed other services, they jumped on it.
Mhm.
And so I quickly learned that this whole idea of if you provide value first, the sales will come later became so important to me. So when I got into promotional product sales, what I would do is show value. What, if Phil, if you were the marketing director for a large company, I would find you on LinkedIn. I may or may not connect with you on LinkedIn, but then I would drop off a package of goodies to you, branded with my company, but really good pens and some really nice swag that you got value. And many times, about 35% of the time, we got a meeting from that because people were like, "We've never seen stuff like this before." And it came back to our value proposition that we were unique and innovative. So now you transition into LinkedIn. What happens with the value? How do you lead with value on LinkedIn? Well, first of all, we have to stop telling people how we want to help them and just simply help them. If you talk to any salesperson and you say to them, I wouldn't say any, but probably 9 out of 10, "Why do you do what you do?" "I want to help people." Okay. How do you want to help them? How can you help them? And when you lead with value, then you're just helping them. And it comes down to the definition, our definition of social selling, which is social selling is about building relationships, providing real value, and being a resource, and understanding that the sales will come when the time is right. And many salespeople, especially sales trainers and sales leaders, have a problem with that last part of when the time is right, because we're generally impatient. We want it now. And listen, there's a real reason for that, because we have a real quota that at the end of every month that ends, and a new one. Today is the 31st. For a lot of people today is D-Day for Q1. So now it's like, if I didn't hit my quota for Q1, that's even more that I have to add on to Q2. And what's going to happen with the economy, and what's going to happen with this? And so there's that sense of urgency. But here's what happens when we have that sense of urgency: is we get desperate. And when we get desperate, we look for shortcuts. And when we use shortcuts, we turn off a whole lot of people. And that's what's happening a lot on LinkedIn right now, or people are trying to use these automation shortcuts. And what they don't realize is, while they're sending out hundreds or maybe thousands of messages, and maybe they're getting a return that's working, although I've yet to talk to anyone that says, "Oh yeah, I send out automated messages and my pipeline's full." If they are getting a return, what they don't realize is how many people they're probably turning off.
Yeah.
So, and where does the value start? The value starts with your profile and establishing your profile the right way, so that's not a resume, which is how LinkedIn defaults, because that's how it was started. It started out as a place for recruiters to link up and get linked in with people looking for jobs and get them linked into a company. And it's grown, but it defaults to this resume. And that's all about me. If my profile is a resume, it's all about me. And if it's all about me, then it's providing no value at all. And so what we have to do is flip the script with that and start presenting our profile as a resource, so that when people read through our profile, if they never contact me, they learn something, and there's something of value there that they come away with. And we go back to Bryn. I didn't have any real conversations with her until October of 2018, when we finally talked. But before that, because of her profile, because of the content that she shared, I knew that she was the go-to person for LinkedIn, and that's who I wanted to help from.
Well, there's a lot of nuggets in there, and I'm going to pull a couple out that I believe, and that's why I believe I hang out with you guys as often as I do. And there's a buyer's journey, and we're all on it in our own life. And people don't care about our mortgage payments, our obligations, our quotas. They care about theirs. So what I like about what you guys are doing is helping people understand that better. And if you have enough people, opportunity, and it's not like you need a massive amount of opportunity at the top of your funnel, but you need more in there, then so it's overflowing, so that when you're looking to get the first quarter looked after, you've served enough people that just by out of that value add, you're able to meet or exceed your quota because you've served enough people. So I also like to think if we do this from a high intention, low attachment approach, the neediness, the oh my gosh, I got to sell. And like you say, 9 out of 10 of us want to help and serve people, but the stress shows up, anxiety shows up, and then we start spewing everything, telling, and wonder why people pull away. Well, professional selling is not about telling. It's about asking, understanding, and offering up solutions that could improve the situation for somebody's life. It doesn't mean they have to be in pain. They may want to take a trip to somewhere. That's not painful. So we need to approach them and talk to them where they're at. And I just want to make sure that we let the people know that are listening to this that what you're saying is don't be so needy. Generate leads, but more important than leads, build relationships. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and that's really where it comes down to. You use the Scott Schilling quote, which I love, is high intention and low attachment. And it starts, you talked about having a full funnel of the right people. And you do that by building relationships. You do that by being, by selling from the heart. If the people are in sales, I highly recommend this book. I highly recommend listening to Selling from the Heart podcast. Larry Levine and Daryl Amy are building a great community of people who want to be authentic. And so I'm not building a relationship with Phil because I want to sell Phil. I'm building a relationship with Phil so that we can get to know each other, so that we can have a business relationship, maybe even a personal relationship, because another thing Larry says is, all business is personal. And we have to get away from you mentioned the buyer's journey. That's where we have to be focused on. We all have a sales process. And if you're a salesperson and you have a sales manager, they've given you a sales process that says, first you qualify the lead, then you contact the lead, and then you schedule a call with the lead. And there's so many touches before you're able to get to them. And then you're going to have a discovery call. And these are the questions that you have to ask on the discovery call. And this is how you have to do your presentation, and make sure then you push when we used to get together across business tables, push that contract across with the pen and say just the right thing. And that's the sales process. And when we're solidified on the sales process, when we're focused on the sales process, we're really ignoring the customer. What we have to figure out is what the buying process is, because that's changed. And now more than ever, more clients, more of your prospective clients are researching you. They're researching your offer. I live in the LinkedIn training world. I don't know how many searches there are for LinkedIn training on Google every day. My guess is there are a lot, and there are a lot of companies that are out there that do what we do. And so I have to be focused on the fact and know that even before I get on a Zoom call with Phil, he's probably done some research. He knows a lot more than he's going to let on. So rather than being concerned about my sales process, I want to be concerned about Phil's buying process. So I want to talk about, what are the outcomes that Phil is looking for? What are the outcomes that Phil's company is looking for? And that's where I want to focus. And so to go back to the relationship piece, so then rather than it being a sales call, rather than being this call that we get on, that I've got this checklist, I want to get on a call and I want to get to know Phil. I want to build a relationship with Phil, understanding that, the Bob Berg quote from Endless Referrals, when all is said and done, at the end of the day, people do business with people they what? Know, like, and trust. Well, how do we get to know, like, and trust people? We have to be willing to build relationships. And that can start on LinkedIn also. we say to build, to know, like, and trust, you have to attract, teach, and engage. And we can do that on LinkedIn. Again, if we're sharing extreme value, if every post that we put out on LinkedIn has something that our ideal buyer cares about and wants to know about, then they can get to know us and like us and trust us through that content.
Cool. So I'm also in the sales training and coaching business, and have been for some, I don't know how many years. I'm Dale Carnegie-fied, Brian Tracy-ized, and Philipized. And what I do is I bring in the relationship side of things, of being authentic, progressive, and effective. And I teach and coach the people I get to work with is to be a doctor of selling. And in that process, I just got a note there, got distracted. There's 4 sections that I believe in being this doctor. And when it comes to getting the order, that's the least amount of effort that you have to extend. It's only 10%. Because if you've earned the right, that means you've done some of the things that Bill's talking about. 40% is building relationship, to understand who they're about, where they want to go, what excites them, what upsets them, all that kind of stuff. Really peeling back, getting into the soul of the person you're talking to. And then from there, you're learning what needs they may have that you might be able to provide, or introduce them to somebody else. And in that process, you've earned the right to then present your possible solution. And it's just conversational like. And when it comes, so it's 40, 30, 20, 10. And if you do that, getting people to enroll with you, because just like you were talking about, they want to do business with you. They're looking for you from Bermuda because you've earned the right. You haven't done what I see often on social platforms. Doesn't matter what one it is, it seems to be a common theme. It goes back to the end of the quarter you talked about. They get needy, and the stress levels go up, and they start doing connect and pitch. Wow. And you guys teach what? Converting that into a conversation.
Yeah. So what we say is a connect and pitch is a bait and switch. And so it's interesting. About a year and a half ago, right before the pandemic, what was happening was people were sending connection requests with no note at all. And so what you do is if you accepted, you then get the pitch. And so they were kind of taking that as permission. But then suddenly COVID happened. And now you have all these salespeople that are stuck in their homes, and they can't go meet people. They can't go pull doors. I used to work with a lot of folks in the payment systems, to restaurants, and they said, yeah, we're door pullers. We have to pull 80 doors a day or 60 doors a day or some crazy. Well, they couldn't do that anymore. So somebody said, go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the place you need to be on there. You need to be reaching out and doing things on there. And so then what happened, we had this transition probably about May through June, July of last year. And it's unfortunately continued, where people are sending a connection request, and right in the connection request, they're pitching their product, they're pitching their service. People that we don't even know. I don't know anyone that works for. And if you're listening to this, please, bill@socialsaleslink.com. I want to hear about it, because it just doesn't work. You're asking to join my network. My network is very valuable to me. It can be very valuable to you. It's a global network, and I just don't let anybody into it. I'm the gatekeeper of my network, and I protect it. So if you just come in and are pitching me, bye-bye, see you later. I don't want to see you anymore, because that just isn't working. Come in with some value. And I guess this might be a good time to talk about some strategies for connecting the right way. Is go visit their profile. Look for 2 things in 2 minutes that you can find in common with them to say, and not connections. Okay. So I'll get a lot of these. Hi, Bill, I see we have some mutual connections. Let's connect. That's kind of like the, hey, do you come here often of LinkedIn world. It's a pickup line. It's really, you're just trying to get into my network so you can pitch more than likely. Really find a reason. Look and see that I went to Empire State College in New York. And if you're an alumni, hey, I see we went to the same school together. What did you study? Have a conversation. Build the relationship authentically, not just I want to add people to my numbers. I'm not here to be a connection collector. I'm here to be a networker. And unfortunately, there are a number of trainers that are out there that teach, you have to have more connections, just get more connections. And there's something to that. Your posts will go farther in the algorithm the more connection you have. But would you rather have a high quantity of connections in a low quality network, or would you rather have a lower quantity of connections but a higher quality of network? I know that's what I want. I want a higher quality to my network. So, look for two things in 2 minutes. Go look at their content and actually engage on it. If you engage on a couple of posts of mine, and then you reach out and say, hey, I've been looking at your content. It's really great. I want to see more of it. Can we connect? I'm going to accept you every single time. So do that. Follow them, rather than, if you can't find any reason to connect with them, follow them. You just go to the more button, click that. It'll drop down. It'll say follow. And then you can follow them, and then they'll show up in your network. But you really want to build a quality network. And I didn't when I first started out. I wanted to get to that 500 plus connections so badly that I connect with anybody. And sadly now, when I look through my, today, 5 people have birthdays, and I'll look and I know 2 of them. The other 3, I have no clue. And when I look, I see I connected to them a long time ago. And, you're only allowed 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. And many of us are way far away from that. But I always like to reverse engineer things. And now I'm thinking, I'm approaching the 5,000 connection mark because I'm very selective, but I want to continue to be that way. Bryn right now is at the 30,000. So there are people she wants to connect with. And in order to connect with them, she's got to go get rid of some people. And that's laborious. You can't bulk unconnect with people. You have to go through each one at a time. And that's not fun.
So I put something on there as one of my pet peeves. And there's still sales training people that use the word pitch. And I hate that, pitching. I don't mind, because people don't like to be sold, do they? They like to buy. They like to help them making a great decision. And then when they get to the end of it, they'll even claim that they made the best decision. You didn't even play a role in it. And that's okay. Pitching is good for baseball, a curve pitch, a fast pitch, whatever, a fastball pitch. Or if you follow English football, a soccer pitch, a football pitch. It's great for that. But for the profession of selling, it takes me down the road when I was selling cars, new and used. And when somebody came up onto the lot or into the dealership, they were not customers, they were ups. Or they were, there was the language in that industry. The jargon is just not very good. I don't know if it's still the same today. I've been in the car industry forever. So as professional sales people providing solutions, I think we need to stop pitching. So when anybody I teach and train and coach, when they bring up pitch, I just go crazy, and get them to think about providing value, presenting solutions, be a solution provider, a problem solver. I'll get off my rant. And
it's a good rant to have. And I think, you'll hear people say, make sure you have your elevator pitch ready. I think that continues on. And I think a lot of the stereotypes that people have of salesmen today come from those used cars, the proverbial used car salesman, back in the 70s, 80s. And
real quickly, because the elevator pitch puts people's guards up. I changed it to your infomercial, but now I've heard a new one, your micro story. So if you tell your micro story, it's way more readily accepted. Anyway, just want to make sure we threw that in.
And as salespeople, we lead with our solution so often because we believe in it, and we should believe in it. We should believe in that our product, our service is the best that's out there, and so we get excited, and so we immediately want to tell people, I help companies just like yours, but you haven't earned the right? So we talk about the fact that you have to earn the right to have that sales conversation, and the way that you do that is providing value and leading them. Not leading them on, but rather than leading with your solution, leading them to your solution. Or what I said this week, I captured it and wrote it down. You want them to discover your solution, like a treasure map. You want them to find, whether you're telling the story or they're reading it on your LinkedIn profile or on your website, you want them, as they're reading your story, to follow it along like a treasure map. And you want them to discover that. You know, there's basically 5 things that we want from any kind of content, any kind of story. We want it to resonate. We want, when people are reading it, we want them to say, yeah, that's me. Then we want to create some curiosity. Bryn talks about the pug tilt. You know, you ever see a dog that kind of hears something weird? I say you want a lean in moment. You know when you have someone when they lean in. So you want to resonate. You want to create curiosity. Then you want to teach them something new that gets them thinking differently about what it is they're going through. And then if you've done that, you're going to get raised hands of, yes, I want to know more. And that's leading them to discover your solution, so that it's not the pitch bit. Because listen, if you pitch to me, you can have the greatest product around. And this is probably because I'm in LinkedIn training and I'm a sort of sales trainer. I'm probably the worst person that you can sell to, because my guard goes up immediately, and I just don't want to be sold to. I want to be able to buy. And that's really the key to it, because when we start with our solution, when we lead with our solution, what your prospective clients hear is the adults in a Charlie Brown cartoon, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't understand. Well, want. It's white noise because everybody's doing it. But if you'll provide value, if by reading your about summary or reading through your LinkedIn profile or reading a piece of content teaches them something that will help them, even if they never do business with you, then you're beginning to lead to your solution, right? Because we've got to earn the right? And we also talk about the ask offer ratio, which comes from Keenan's book, Gap Selling. So excited. Keenan actually is going to be speaking to our members in a master class. I'm just looking at my calendar here to see when it is on May 12th. So for the folks that are listening, if you go to socialsaleslink.com/library, you sign up as a free complimentary silver member, no credit card required. You'll have access to all of our content library, all of our past master classes, but then you also get an invitation to Keenan on the 12th of May. So in Gap Selling, he talks about the ask offer ratio. Anytime we're asking somebody to do something, we're asking them for their time, which is one of our most precious commodities. So the offer, what they're getting in return for that, has to be really greater than that time you're asking them for. And there's usually typically three responses to the ask offer ratio. The first we talked about, when people connect and pitch, it's a bait and switch. That's the first thing. Have you ever, Phil, been on a webinar with someone and they said, we're going to teach you these 3 tips for increasing traffic to your website? And it's a 35-minute video webinar. For 30 minutes, they pitch their products and services and how they do it. And then in the last 5 minutes, they give you those 3 tips. It's a bait and switch. You really got no value from that. So we don't want that to happen. The second response to the ask offer ratio is it's neutral. It really didn't teach me anything. I may have found this out somewhere else, but it's not compelling. And that's the third and best response to the ask offer ratio, is that it compels them to some action, to keep reading, to fill out a form for more information, to raise their hand and say, hey, how can I get on a call and find out more about you? That's what we want to do. That's how we want to use our LinkedIn presence as a resource, so that we lead to our solution, so that they discover it, just like treasure on a treasure map.
I want to show you a bit of treasure that showed up in my email, because I'm part of your community. And just because I'm a sales trainer, coach, etc., doesn't mean I stop learning. And I learn a ton of stuff from you guys. And this is what showed up. Let me add it to the stream and see if I can make it. There we go.
Wow, good job. I don't even know how to do that. That's like magic to me.
Yeah, I learn a lot as I go, but I don't know if you can read it here. But the idea is that the additional value that you guys bring, this showed up in my email this morning. It's a tip of the week. And this particular one is, can you read that?
Yeah, so it's your headline is prime profile real estate. So your headline is the area right underneath your name. You should optimize the 220 characters LinkedIn gives you. So they give you 220 characters with spaces. It should now you're challenging me. It should resonate with your visitors. I've got to look out of the bottom part of my glasses. It should resonate with your visitors, create curiosity, and gets them to want to keep reading, right? So, And rather than just your life and company name, your title and company name, sorry, consider including whom you help, how you help them, and the results you bring. And you went too fast. I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. And the results you bring. And so, yeah, so each week we put this a lot of work goes into this newsletter. Let me tell you. And so we give a tip of the week. We also highlight our LinkedIn Life Live, which is every Monday. If you go to our Social Sales Links LinkedIn page, every Monday at around 12:30, we're on LinkedIn Live for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it's the Fab Four. It's Bryn Tillman, of course, Sally Jo Lamont, who's up at the top of this one, and Bob Woods and myself. And we talk about one topic. We take one topic on LinkedIn, and each of us give our quick tips about that. So we also highlight that in the newsletter.
And then there's a video at the bottom of this particular one.
And so that will go to the recording of our LinkedIn Life Live from the previous Monday. And this we talked about who should you connect with on LinkedIn. So we talk about, the three types of connectors, the LinkedIn open networker or lion, the purist, and the networker. And then I think I talk a little bit about sending messages back to people rather than just accepting them.
So that was a new experience for me. I was able to share one of the browser tabs, and I didn't realize what it did. So when I was going too fast, I apologize. Now I learned something.
No worries. That's great. That's great. Technology. Who would have thought? I was talking to someone about I think it was last April or May. We had been into the pandemic for a little bit. We weren't sure when we were gonna come out of it, and they were asking what I was thankful for in the pandemic, and I said technology, because think about this, Phil. If this had happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how many people would have been dead in the water, not able to do anything? It's really, technology has really helped us. And, a year ago, I remember hoping that in the summertime, we'd be able to get back to normal. I was supposed to speak at Outbound last year, Bryn and I remember they moved it. And then they completely canceled it. And that's when I was like, wow, this is really real.
This is real. Yeah, it
is real.
So what it did for me is it reminds me of an expression that I heard from one of my mentors way back 5 decades ago. I've been on this sales, marketing, and mindset journey pretty much most of my life. My first sales gig was selling landscaping services. I was the guy doing the services, but I had to sell it first. Right. And I was paid for. But from there, I've grown into where I'm at today. And the mentor that I met, he said, these kind of things jar your preserves. There's 2 ways you can go with that. Hunker down and hope like hell you survive it, which is what a lot of people did and do whenever there's a change they don't like. They feel the impact. But there's a wonderful American, Dale Carnegie, who had a solution to that. He says, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So the other aspect of this stuff jars your preserves, you can hunker down, which is some place where we can go a little bit, but we can't stay there. We need to take accountability and be responsible and take action towards something. So what COVID did for me is help me create a variety of different flavors of lemonade. The people I got to meet Bryn because of her connections. And I was looking for places to expand, just like you were saying, like the opportunity to connect with people, serve them, changed how we found them. And being that I like the networking space, I built a business on networking and running networking groups before they were popular. And when you can't go see people, how the hell do you do it? Well, if it wasn't for technology, like you say, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So the technology, the people I've met, and the opportunities to grow and expand my skill set. And I keep doing that. I just learned something new today with showing a browser page and going too fast.
Yeah. When we go back to the value and providing value, when those life-altering, world-altering events happen, it's the people who provide value that thrive. Bryn instilled in me a long time ago that you provide value at every turn. And so what happened was when COVID really hit and we were like, everyone was shut down, we started doing these complimentary webinars for people of how to build relationships on LinkedIn during COVID. And that turned into a huge amount of business. And we didn't do it for business. We did it because it was needed. People needed to know that there was a place that they could go, that they could stay in touch with their clients, they could stay in touch with their prospects, they could actually build a business. You know, we had one person who's a member of our community who when no one else in her industry was securing any new business, because of what she learned from us, was able to secure a $1.5 million deal that's now been a $3 million deal. She sent Brent a thank you card saying, thank you, you paid for my daughter's college. And so that came out of because we just wanted to give value. And, you know, it really worked, and we made lemonade out of that. And it led to us to our busiest year that we had ever had. And
I know who that wonderful person is. She's part of the how I got introduced to Bryn in the first place. Was
and
if you join the dots backwards, like Stephen Job talks about, it's amazing. We could probably go on forever. Maybe I should have you come back for another session in a month or two to refresh people's minds around what you guys do and what the value you bring, and leading with value.
Yeah, I would love to. You know, we didn't even touch about how to use your network to gain referrals, permission to name drop. There's so much more to talk about. But listen, if all of your listeners will find me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, but please send me a note saying, hey, I heard you on Phil's podcast. That would be great. Would love to connect with them.
That would be terrific. I mean, and guys, if you've listened and heard this, they are some wonderful people with high integrity, and they're really anti what do you call it, automated. They're teaching and coaching us to do what I already know how to do in the physical space, but to leverage LinkedIn and do the same sort of thing. And that's building relationships through networking and making it work for you and your organization and the people you care about. Bill, this has been a treat. I'm going to wrap this up here shortly. I'll be back with you in a moment.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
So if you liked what you saw here, I'm going to put his link up here one more time where you can go and find some information about their company. And you can look Bill McCormick up on LinkedIn. He's not hard to find, and he's a gem of a gentleman, and he leads with passion and his heart. If you like what this is about, please share it out. If you watch this in the replay, go #replay so we know. And if you've got any feedback or for what we're up to, or if you have a question you would like answered around sales, marketing, or mindset, please let me know. My information is right at the top above here. CoachPhil.ca is my website, and Phil@CoachPhil.ca is where you can shoot me an email, or you can look me up on LinkedIn because I'm there too. And I'm learning more and making stronger and better connections with the people that I want to connect with. Have a marvelous, wonderful day.